This is ABC7 News at 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
Puerto Ricans tend to lean Democratic, so I think Democrats are really excited potentially about this influx of voters that, could lean in their favor. It's not a guarantee, though, and it's not like every Puerto Rican votes Democratic.
Puerto Ricans leaving the island after Hurricane Maria hit and moving to Florida. How will this impact future elections in the Sunshine State? Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohn, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on the Puerto Rican impact on Florida politics in a moment. But first, our top 7 stories at 7. If you love watching baseball, you hate rainouts. Well, get this. The entire 2019 debut of the Atlanta Braves in Northport is being scrubbed except for the very last game of spring training. Construction delays are forcing the Braves to delay their move to Northport from Orlando. The new goal is to have the stadium open for just one game in 2019. The Chamber of Commerce is not too happy.
Mostly just a disappointment on the tourism aspect of it. But on the economic development, I mean, it just slows it down a little bit. It's going to happen.
That one game will be in April of 2019. The Braves will be moving their headquarters here before the game. The Tampa Bay Rays' team doctor is being fired after a video posted on YouTube included accusations of sexual abuse with a teenager. The team announced yesterday it severed ties with Michael Riley, the 26-year-old woman who posted the video, worked for him about a decade ago. Riley is denying the allegations. The Tampa Bay Times reports Riley is also resigning from St. Petersburg Catholic High School when school officials contacted him about the video. St. Petersburg police say they are looking into the accusations. Former Venice High School football star Trey Burton is preparing for the biggest game of his career, Super Bowl 52. The Philadelphia Eagle will take the field in Minneapolis on Sunday with the entire Venice community back here at home cheering him on. Burton was the star quarterback at Venice High School in 2008 and 2009. His former coaches say he was not just a star athlete, but a role model, a hard worker, and someone everyone just wanted to be around. Now Burton has the chance to become a champion. The same season, the Venice Indians also won a state championship.
I texted him last night because I know it's going to get wild at the Super Bowl, so I wanted to text him and say, hey, good luck, and hope everything goes well, and I want to try on your Super Bowl ring.
Trey Burton's brother is going to the Super Bowl on Sunday along with some of his uncles. His former coaches, however, will be watching the game from home. Now an update on the massive 911 outage throughout the entire Tampa Bay area. Service has finally been restored. A 7-county outage impacted the Suncoast as well as the Tampa Bay area. The outages were the result of technical issues with Frontier Communications in Tampa, but was restored around 1 o'clock. A spokesperson with the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office says if another outage happens, the public can always go to local law enforcement offices or a fire station. The state Senate is also passing an bill earmarking $100 million a year for the Florida Forever Land Conservation Program. The proposal would use money from a 2014 voter-approved constitutional amendment aimed at increasing land and water conservation. The legislation would annually designate a portion of the state's land acquisition trust fund for the Florida Forever program. Under the proposal, lawmakers wouldn't be able to use the trust fund money for the agency overhead, which has been a point of contention with backers.
Unfortunately, since 2014, I would suggest that some of the funds from the LATF have been used for administrative and technological support rather than what I think the voters wanted us to do.
Since 2001, Florida Forever has been used to purchase more than 718,000 acres for $2.9 billion. The legislation now heads to the Florida House. Florida is taking a major step towards ending child marriages. The state Senate passed a bill today banning the marriage of anyone under the age of 18. Florida doesn't allow anyone under the age of 18 to independently consent to marriage. Children aged 16 and 17 can marry with the consent of both parents, but if there is a pregnancy involved, there is no minimum age for marriage as long as a judge approves the license.
It is a sign to every other young girl and young man across this state that their future is of their design, of their choice, and we want them to succeed and be everything that they can be.
A House bill has its final committee stop tomorrow before it can be considered by the full chamber. A statue of civil rights leader Mary Beloit Bethune is halfway to the goal of replacing a Confederate general in the U.S. Capitol. The Florida Senate voting 37-0 today to pass a measure having Bethune's statue replace Confederate General Edmund Kirby Smith at Statuary Hall at the Capitol. The legislature voted in 2016 to replace the Smith statue during a nationwide backlash against Confederate symbols.
Dr. Bethune serves as the first African-American woman to head a federal agency. Dr. Bethune founded what is now Bethune-Cookman University.
Despite agreeing to remove Smith, lawmakers were unable to come up with a replacement during the session last year. Now let's head over to ABC7's chief meteorologist Bob Harrigan with the first alert forecast. Bob.
Well, Ellen, we had a nice afternoon after a very chilly start this morning with wind chills into the 30s to start things off, but a nice finish and a gorgeous sunset once again here along the Sun Coast. And the moon now has popped up along the eastern portion of our viewing area now. You look out toward the east, you'll see it there. Gorgeous, though, looking out from Casey Key. And satellite shows just some high clouds around. That's been about it as of late. Lots of sunshine throughout this afternoon. We'll see a lot of sunshine tomorrow, too. And then some clouds will start to come in. This is a cold front now, and this front extends all the way through the parts of the Ohio Valley, all the way down now into Oklahoma. This is a rather weak cold front for us. We're going to see it get close to us on Friday. Bring with it just some clouds, really. No real threat of any significant rainfall on Friday. No clouds to speak of through the 11 o'clock hour. Temperatures dropping down into the mid-50s, so a little bit on the cool side, but not extremely cold like we saw this morning. Now, the winds, there was a little sea breeze that kicked in, and now we're looking at northeasterly winds coming back into play, and that will allow for some things to chill out now. It's 8 mile an hour. Englewood also in near Northport, pretty much the same story. As far as lows go tonight, they'll drop down to the upper 40s to low 50s for the most part, and then by 9 a.m., we'll back into the 60-degree temperature, so it'll warm up pretty quickly with abundant sunshine around. I know I took the dog for a walk this morning right around 7:30, and it was cold. I mean, we're talking wind chills in the 30s. At least that's cold for me, having been down here now for 33 years.
It was cold last night. You know what? We want to take a moment to wish a very special viewer a happy 81st birthday, a role model for all.
Norm Harrigan, my father. Yes, thank you very much for that. You surprised me. Yeah, Dad.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Norm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. And still to come, thousands of Puerto Ricans are moving to Florida. Will this have an impact on the future of our elections? Stay with us.
Every child follows a path in life. For many, that path will lead them to a door that gives them a place to grow, to learn, to belong, a place to forge their future. Because while many doors open, these doors transform. They did for us. Support your local Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
Attention, Americans eligible for Medicare. Are you getting all the benefits you're entitled to? Did you know there may be money available to lower your medical prescription costs? Call Health Markets and we'll tell you if you qualify.
Hi, I'm Dr. Martin Jeetsi. It's a new Medicare year. That means more changes and more confusion. The key question is, what can you do now to ensure you get the care you need in the coming year?
Call Health Markets today. You may qualify to save money on prescriptions. We'll help you find plans that may cost less, cover more, and could even lower your prescription costs to increase your savings. We help you find all the benefits you're entitled to, and we do it at no cost.
Make sure you have what you need to get the care that's right for you.
Find out if you qualify to receive extra help with your prescriptions. Call the number on the screen now. Representatives are standing by.
To be able to just get my son here and not think about how we will pay for it, it just takes so much weight off of my family. St. Jude allowed me to focus on being a mom to Bryce. And sometimes I'm just in awe of the impact St. Jude has, not only on this community, but the world.
All hands on deck. What's up? I want to point out 3 tips for using the home computer more safely. Point away.
First, stop. Make sure your software is up to date and that you've password protected your computer's login and Wi-Fi connection.
Next, think before visiting a site, opening attachments, or clicking on links.
Then connect, knowing you're helping make the web safer for you
and for everyone. Make Stop, Think, Connect part of your daily online routine.
Watch Good Morning Suncoast on ABC7, weekdays starting at 5.
Florida politics could be remade this election year. The state now home to tens of thousands of Puerto Ricans after their homes were ravaged by Hurricane Maria. ABC7's Jess Dowdrick joins us with the story. Jess.
Alan, more than 1 million Puerto Ricans called Florida home before Hurricane Maria even hit. That's about 5% of the state's population. Since then, an estimated 130,000 Puerto Ricans moved to Florida, ready to start over. As we head into the 2018 election year, the state of Florida will choose a new governor, and tens of thousands of Floridians' newest residents from Puerto Rico will have a say in who he or she is. According to the Florida Department of Education, 50,000 Puerto Ricans will have made Florida their residence as we head into the midterm election year.
Puerto Ricans tend to lean Democratic, so I think Democrats are really excited potentially about this influx of voters that, could lean in their favor. It's not a guarantee, though, and it's not like every Puerto Rican votes Democratic.
Both the Republican and Democratic parties statewide are courting new arrivals to Florida.
When you look at the state of Florida, elections are oftentimes decided by a couple votes either way.
For example, President Donald Trump won the state by just 112,000 votes out of the 9.6 million that were cast.
The elections have been close in the last gubernatorial elections as well as the presidential election, and I assume that more voters voting for Democrats would help the Democratic Party.
The possible impact of Puerto Rican voters hasn't gone unseen by politicians.
As you see the governor really playing to Puerto Ricans, he has really been aggressive after Hurricane Maria and Hurricane Irma and reaching out to the Puerto Rican community and folks who have relocated here.
Puerto Ricans have applauded Republican Governor Rick Scott for welcoming them and have expressed outrage over the Republican president's handling of the storm. But regardless of the new Floridians' party affiliation, there's a bigger issue.
Just because you move to Florida doesn't mean that you're going to register to vote and participate in these elections. So, Democrats still have a tall order to try and register all these people and get them interested in participating in the elections in the state.
On a local level, in Sarasota and Manatee counties, there's not a way for the county supervisors of elections to be able to determine how many Puerto Ricans have registered to vote since the hurricane.
We don't really have a hard line on attracting that. It's an application question which they're not required to answer, okay, in the state of Florida. So we don't necessarily know where they came from. We can guess.
In Manatee County, they've seen a lot of voter registration forms come in since hurricane season, but nothing unusual. Right now, Supervisor of Elections Michael Bennett says there are about 10% more Republicans in Manatee County than Democrats.
It's how do they vote, and it's really kind of tough to anticipate that when you look at the huge number of people who are registering now as independent.
In Sarasota County, things are also steady. Supervisor of Elections Ron Turner hasn't seen a drastic increase in people registering to vote, but his office is ready when they're needed.
Voter registration is available in a variety of locations through a paper application or through an online process. And the Supervisor of Elections office is certainly willing to work with any individuals or groups that we can. There are Spanish versions of the Florida voter registration application.
One big race in Sarasota County this year is the race for District Seat 72 between Democrat Margaret Good and Republican James Buchanan. That's a race Puerto Ricans could play a major role in.
That race, the Margaret Good, James Buchanan race, is going to be very close, and every vote counts, and I encourage everyone to vote, so you never know.
The real influx of Puerto Ricans to Florida is in Central Florida, which is home to 350,000 Puerto Ricans. It isn't just a post-Hurricane Maria influx. Puerto Ricans have been moving there for years.
People thought that that was really going to help Democrats, and Donald Trump won Florida, so you never know what's going to happen, and it could be that people are overhyping this a little bit.
So we'll just have to wait and see what this election year brings. From the federal election perspective, as U.S. citizens, Puerto Ricans can vote in federal elections once they move to the mainland.
Jess, thank you. You can vote anytime you want at the Trapezoid. Stand by to find out more on what impact the Puerto Rican exodus will have on Suncoast politics.
Many websites selling medication may look professional and legitimate, but the vast majority of sites selling prescription drugs are doing so illegally. Criminals use websites to sell counterfeit medications that may contain life-threatening toxins. Dot Pharmacy is a website verification program that helps you identify safe and trustworthy online pharmacies. Purchasing medicine online can be safe and easy. Just look for pharmacy to the right of the dot in website addresses.
Thank you. You got a king?
Go fish! In your face, in your face, in
It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
My name is Luke Perry, and I am 1 million strong. I'm in the fight against colorectal cancer because I believe we can win it. Colon and rectal cancers are the second leading cause of cancer deaths among men and women in the U.S. Colon cancer is preventable. Know the risk factors and make sure to get screened. There are simple, take-home options available. Take control of your health. Screening for colon cancer isn't embarrassing. It can be life-saving. To find out more about your options, visit fightcrc.org.
Don't allow your weight to threaten your health or control your future. Excess weight or obesity can cause emotional and physical health risks. But you can take control. The Your Weight Matters campaign offers free resources and tips to help you measure and understand your weight. Take the Your Weight Matters Challenge. The free toolkit prepares you to speak with a healthcare provider about your weight. Your weight does matter. Take the challenge and take control today.
Welcome back. Will there be a political price for the slow, lackluster federal response to Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico? No, we're not talking about in Puerto Rico. We're talking about here in Florida. 4 months after Maria devastated the island, tens of thousands of homes and businesses remain without power. Tens of thousands of Puerto Ricans have now moved to Florida. Puerto Ricans who lean Democratic, and many Puerto Ricans remain livid about President Trump's response to the hurricane. If they register to vote, they can vote. And what will the impact be here in Florida and on the Suncoast? Joining us for more is Frank Alcock, a political science professor at New College, and Jacob Ogles, political editor of SRQ magazine. This really is, gentlemen, the talk of the political world in Florida about the impact, but my question is it going to be a statewide and regional effect, and will it impact the Suncoast? Jacob.
I think it's going to impact every part of the state of Florida, but some areas more than others. Certainly we're seeing the population that's relocating from Puerto Rico going first to metropolitan areas like Orlando and to Miami, but I think that you're going to see people spreading out over the state of Florida over time, particularly the ones that choose to relocate here permanently. You know,
The Orlando Sentinel reported that more than 239 Puerto Ricans have arrived in Florida since October 3rd. That's a huge number, Frank.
239,000?
Yeah. That's a huge number. And, you know, in the Orlando area, we know has been kind of migrating Democrat. 3 out of the 4 congressional districts in the Orlando area are now represented by Democrats. But I guess a lot of the questions are, you know, is there any sign of Puerto Ricans moving to the Suncoast, the Tampa Bay area, and so forth?
Tampa Bay area, yes. Suncoast, not in big numbers as of yet. Getting back to your question, the impacts of migration from Puerto Rico and the feelings that the Puerto Rican community have with respect to the president's response to Hurricane Maria, I think it's going to have a lasting, potentially structural impact on politics in Florida over a 10-year period. However, I'm not so sure it's going to show up dramatically in 2018. It's going to take a little time.
Well, let's talk about this a little bit. I do believe we have some video from the president's visit to Puerto Rico right after Maria. And him, there we go. And, you know, a lot has been made of this video of the president throwing paper towels to the crowd there. If you ask, you know, folks at FEMA, the president and the federal government did everything it could do, given the logistical nightmare of responding to a hurricane like that. But on the other hand, you know, you did see a lot of other Puerto Ricans, including the mayor of San Juan, really take exception about the pace of the federal response, and that remains to this day. Jacob, we often say that Puerto Ricans lean Democrat, but not all Puerto Ricans vote Democrat. I know I have a lot of Puerto Rican friends who vote Republican.
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of socially conservative members of that community that very well could break Republican. I think one of the things that stands in real obvious juxtaposition, though, when you mentioned the federal response with Puerto Rico, you know, 31% of the island of Puerto Rico is still without power right now. We are in an area that was hit by a hurricane, not as powerful a hurricane, but we got all of our power back at 100% a long time ago. Even the areas that were flooded with Hurricane Harvey got that back a long time ago. So that's the problem with the federal response. Yes, there's logistical challenges on an island that don't exist with the mainland storm-struck area, but you still can't get over that difference.
Frank, we only have a few seconds left here, but are both parties here in Sarasota and statewide aware of and trying to game plan for these folks coming into the area?
I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe the Democrats a little bit more so than the Republicans. But as Jacob said, there's, you know, they're not done yet. We're going to be pulling back FEMA resources. And how many lines did you hear about last night in the State of the Union?
Right, and they just announced today that they are pulling back FEMA resources from Puerto Rico. We are just getting warmed up, and we'll have much more on Puerto Ricans moving to Florida and the potential impact on our elections right after we check the First Alert weather.
Hi, I'm Chef Bob. Watch Aprons in the Kitchen every Wednesday morning on ABC7, where we'll be serving up the most awesome dishes. Then stop by your neighborhood Publix, pick up the recipe card and all the ingredients.
Credit card debt can ruin your life. If you owe $10,000 and minimum payments are siphoning away your paycheck each month, you can get debt-free in less time than you think.
I've paid $800 a month for the past 3 years and haven't changed the balance on my credit card.
Get debt-free now has a program to reduce your debt, stop the harassing phone calls, avoid financial ruin, and settle for less than you owe.
I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
You're pre-approved for our special hardship program if you owe $10,000 or more. Upon payment of your new lower balance, your debt will finally shrink until you are debt-free.
My family no longer has 30 years of payments ahead of us at 20% interest.
There's no fees until you see results. So call now, make one monthly program payment, and free up your cash. Resolve your debt.
Call 800-685-6422, 800-685-6422.
Invest in Kids is a $7.5 million project to build a new Boys and Girls Club in South Manatee County. I'm Caleb Grimes, and I was a club kid. It's where I learned important life lessons, leadership, integrity, responsibility, and baseball. Thousands of kids attend the Boys and Girls Clubs, and after years of use, their club is slowly falling apart. Help us invest in kids. Make your donation today.
I love taking care of my mom. It wasn't easy at first. She learned how to better communicate her needs.
And you learned how to not ignore yours.
I discovered how to make healthier meals.
And I discovered how much I enjoyed them.
Becoming a caregiver is a learning experience for everyone. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
Tomorrow at 5 on ABC7, your Suncoast News.
Well, you might want to save your money on fish oil supplements. Details in HealthSmart.
Tomorrow at 5 on ABC7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you. Now your ABC7 First Alert weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan.
Well, thanks, Alan. Get a look at these pictures that were sent into pics@mysuncoast.com. Mike getting this one from Osprey as the moon was getting ready to set this morning. And then this one, I think, is one of my favorites, Rob Bennett from Braden, getting a look at this. Look how it turned the blood color. That's why they call it the blood moon, as the Earth's shadow is cast upon it. We didn't get the full lunar eclipse, but we saw some partial eclipse. And then the moon went down below the horizon as the sun was rising. Mary Vasquez from the Suncoast, some trees in the foreground there offering for a nice photogenic shot. And this one from Paul Hand, another one from Nokomis Beach. And get a look at that. That's just spectacular. Won't happen again for 19 years. Van Way's a webcam showing pretty nice conditions out there on the waters. Some high cirrus clouds making for a gorgeous sunset tonight. So lots of celestial things going on. And look at that, just gorgeous out there. And we saw that earlier this evening with the oranges and deep pinks as a result of those clouds that are streaming in from the west to the east, really, and that jet stream is very active overhead. We have some low clouds moving off to the southeast. Well, we talked about this front yesterday. It was making its way through Nebraska and Kansas, and now it's all the way down from Ohio, stretching through Indiana, and then all the way down into Oklahoma tonight. Behind it, the winds do turn to the northwest, and that front is going to get close to us, it looks like, on Friday, but it will fall apart. We won't see much with it. We'll see an increase in clouds, and it looks like the rain will be all washed out before it gets here on Friday late afternoon and evening. Well, overnight lows tonight will be cold, but not as cold as this morning. Boy, it was chilly. We had wind chills into the upper 30s, even some mid-30s inland, but our lows overnight will be into the upper 40s. That's still below average, 48 in Sarasota and 49 in Braden, a little bit warmer out of the beaches, 52 degrees at Anna Maria, the same at Longboat, and it looks like a little bit warmer tomorrow night. Current conditions, 61, clear skies, and the west wind at 8. Those winds will switch around to the northeast, by the way, overnight, and Wednesday's forecast looks great. Another spectacular day. You know, this afternoon was gorgeous, lots of sunshine. High pressure will be in control. We'll have an east wind in the day, and that will warm things up into the low 70s tomorrow for highs. The current temperatures now across the U.S., well, all this cold air is going to spill into all those folks wanting to tailgate at the Super Bowl over the weekend, when high temperatures will be in the single digits, we think, with wind chills bitterly cold there. Tomorrow's highs, 6 in Minneapolis, 25 in Chicago. Now, you understand they have a dome there. That's not a problem, but getting from the transportation to the dome is going to be bitterly cold on Super Bowl Sunday. Boston, the high tomorrow, 44. So for boaters, caution has gone away now. East winds turn to the northwest at 5 to 10 knots. Seas will be 2 feet or less, and a light chop on the bays and inland waters. And as far as the water temperature goes, 61, and beaches will see a high right around 70 degrees tomorrow. Let's break down the 7-day forecast for you and show what's happening over the upcoming days. We'll see temperatures cooling down just a little bit with the next front, but not much. 73 on Thursday, Friday. Look for a little increase in cloudiness due to that front that's coming down. And then this Sunday, we look for mainly nighttime showers. A few evening showers are possible now, and the rain chance at 50%. During the day, the rain chance at 30%. And then the weak cold front brings the temperatures to 73 for high, but then we warm back up really quickly. On Tuesday and Wednesday, back into the mid-70s we go with lots of sunshine around. Al will be back right after this. Stick around.
We are problem solvers striving for answers. Relevancy on every platform. We are driven to create content that's compelling, engaging, where it matters. We are neighbors that care about solutions, believers in making a difference, leaders, innovating in an exciting era of multimedia, reaching to always be the gold standard in our evolving landscape. We are Raycom Media. Find your opportunity today.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. Already posted it.
Zupan, part of the U.S. Paralympic rugby team. In my game, movement is everything. I get frustrated when my move is blocked, especially when that guy has no right to be there, even just for a minute. I love a challenge, but I don't like to play this game every day.
A message from the United Spinal Association.
These dogs have a huge responsibility. They work with local families and law enforcement to find missing people, but they're not your typical canines.
The dogs have a very specific ability.
And they're trained to use it right here on the Sun Coast. I'm Jacqueline Matter, and I'll show you how a local group is taking dogs like these and turning them into special tools for investigators. Essentially, these dogs are living a double life.
Yeah. Suncoast Canines, this Thursday on ABC7 News at 6 p.m.
Welcome back. Tens of thousands of Puerto Ricans are relocating to Florida in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria, and that could have a huge impact on elections in Florida. But does that include the Suncoast? Joining us for more is Frank Alcock, a political science professor at New College, and Jacob Ogles, political editor of SRQ magazine. We know on a statewide basis that people are taking this seriously. Governor Rick Scott, who may run for senator against Bill Nelson, could not be going out and welcoming Puerto Ricans to Florida any more than he has. He knows, Frank, what's at stake here.
Absolutely. There are a lot of numbers floating around with respect to what this migration wave might look like. I think over time it could look substantial. I think 500,000 new Puerto Rican citizens moving into for Puerto Rico over potentially a year plus is a possibility, but there's a difference between simply traveling here, deciding to stay, establishing residency, getting registered, and then getting mobilized politically. And so that takes some time.
But if you look at the broader context, Puerto Rico was in a lot of trouble before Hurricane Maria. They are deeply in debt. It's affecting the economy there. And now you have, what did you say, over 30% of homes and businesses still not power restored. And so I would imagine that all those things put together may make it more likely that Puerto Ricans will just stay here in Florida and elsewhere.
For a period of time, I think that's the case. But one thing that I think you need to remember, particularly with politically motivated voters, is that they have causes that they'd be abandoning back home. For example, we're talking about these Puerto Ricans coming here right now. Well, they have their own fight about the finances for the country that they'd be walking away from. They have fights about things like statehood that they are very invested in. They've been fighting those battles for years on the island. And to permanently relocate to the state of Florida would largely mean abandoning those regional issues in the country that they call home.
Well, a couple of things here. Number one, have you been looking at, in terms of Hispanic voting on the Suncoast and elsewhere, Puerto Rican voting numbers on the Suncoast? Are they good, predictable voters?
I think Puerto Rican voters are similar to the Hispanic community, more broadly speaking, and they do not vote at the same rate as the African American community or Caucasian white Americans, which might be good news for Republicans on one hand, but on the other hand, their full potential in terms of mobilization has not been realized, and so you really can't just take past history and project it into the future. And we already have like 1 million Puerto Ricans in this state prior to this wave that's coming on. And so getting back to your question about Rick Scott, he's well aware in such close, tight elections that we have in this state, the issue of Puerto Rico, the Puerto Rican community, and what's happening in the wake of Hurricane Maria could very well swing a statewide election.
Yeah. Well, Alan, I can tell you in Sarasota County in the November elections, Hispanic turnout was under 14%. That's the lowest group. That's the lowest turnout for any racial demographic we had in Sarasota County. In the city elections, it was under 4%. Again, the lowest of any racial demographic in Sarasota.
Let's make some assumptions that are going to result in the big question that I always wanted to ask. Let's say at this stage, Puerto Ricans are really motivated because they're really angry about the federal response. They're not too happy with the president. Why aren't the high IQ Democrats who think of strategically trying to get wealthy Hispanic or Puerto Rican business owners to relocate to Bradenton or Lakeland for that matter and try to attract folks to live here, because the Democrats do not have a great track record of winning elections around here, and if you want to change that, you got to change the landscape, Frank.
I think first, with respect to the people that are moving over from Puerto Rico, I'm not sure the political calculus is the determining factor of where they're going to set up and relocate. That said, I think there are a number of very, very good economic, social, a number of reasons for this particular area, the broader Tampa Bay area, to be welcoming. And so with respect to the Puerto Rican community. And then once you're pulling people in, I think the opportunities to mobilize that community politically are there. And so I think you're going to see it. I think Orlando, the I-4 corridor in particular, but a lot of that area, it's a swing area. It's going to have an impact there. There's a lot of the community that's moving into southeast Florida, but that's already Democratic. I think in a Republican-leaning areas where you have Hillsborough County coming down into Sarasota, that's the area where this community over time might make a difference. It's just not going to happen really quickly.
I know that, but both Republicans and Democrats are always looking to the next election and wondering what the impact will be.
But, you know, one of the things that happens after every presidential election, you look at that big electoral college map and you wonder, boy, if Democrats just left California and moved to Kansas and Texas, well, then, boy, we'd never have those states in play again. But that's not why people make decisions on where to live. They make decisions on where to live where there's a cultural community that they want to be a part of, where there's jobs that they know that they can get work. These are the things that motivate people's decisions. So it's not like the Democratic Party can just say, hey, all these Puerto Ricans, let's make sure they move into swing districts. That's not how decisions are made. The other thing, what are we dealing with in terms of major political issues in this area? Affordable, attainable housing? Well, that's not going to be promising to people who are basically refugees from their homeland because they don't have power and they desperately need to go somewhere where they can empower their family again. So what are you going to do?
You know, let's look at it from the Republican side. I know that some of our Republican friends, when we did shows recently on increasing turnout among African American voters, say that Republicans want an opportunity to make the case that it's the Republican Party and Republican ideals that best suit voters, whether they're in the African American community, Hispanic community, Puerto Rican community.
Oh, I think I would agree. And I do think the Puerto Rican community in particular, Hispanic community a bit more generally, they're really issue-oriented voters. I don't think anybody can simply expect fealty from that group. You have to earn their votes. And so the opportunity is there for individual Republican candidates and then the Republican Party in general to make their case to these voters, but it is certainly not, the president is not helping their cause when he continues to, to treat even American citizens as second-class citizens, and I think that has a rippling effect, not only with the Puerto Rican community, but the broader Hispanic community.
Well, that was my next question, because you can't generalize everyone from Hispanic descent here, but you're kind of saying that you see some kind of connections between Puerto Ricans and Hispanics in Florida from South America and elsewhere.
I think they're individual communities with different sets of issues and concerns that can be spoken to politically, but if the President of the United States is going to treat them all the same, and not in a good way, based upon some perception that they're not, full-fledged American citizens, then I think they might start acting more unified.
We only have a couple seconds left here, but how active is the Hispanic community in politics in the Sarasota-Manatee area? You talked about their election performance here, but are there folks out there who are very political active?
There certainly are individuals in both parties. There's immigrants that are very important fundraisers for the Republican Party in the area. There's a caucus of Hispanic voters in the Democratic area that's extremely mobile and always trying to get more action going on. So I think that there's people making a play for these voters for sure.
All right, we have to take a quick break and we'll be back for final thoughts in a moment.
Choral Artists of Sarasota presents Carmina Burana in Motion. Carl Orff's choral masterpiece, Carmina Burana, bursts into life in this lavish production designed for 60 voices, 3 celebrated soloists, a 2-piano percussion ensemble, and dynamic premiere choreography performed by members of Sarasota Contemporary Dance. Do not miss this lush feast of the senses. Saturday, February 3rd, 4 p.m. at Church of the Palms in Sarasota. Tickets and info are at choralartistsarasota.org or by calling 941-387-4900.
ABC7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you. Watch ABC7 wherever you are, on our live stream, on mysuncoast.com, on the ABC7 My Suncoast app, powered by the Eye Associates, providing sight for life, featuring traffic maps and live radar, dining with recipes, and My Suncoast Restaurant Guide. Visit mysuncoast.com. Click on the Apps tab to download the ABC7 My Suncoast app for Apple and Android.
Every year, 40% of all food in the U.S. never gets eaten.
40%. That's almost half the food we produce.
Food waste is a serious problem. It impacts all of us.
And it's expensive. Your family is throwing $1,500 a year in the trash.
We're working hard to put food waste on the chopping block.
And you can do the same at home.
Learn how to cook it, store it, and share it.
Just don't waste it.
Go to savethefood.com.
It's been about a month, and I can honestly say I've seen the change in me. I went from being a depressed girl who didn't want help to this happy, caring girl who loves helping other people. I just really hope that people that went through what I went through get the help that they need, because their story is important and they are loved. Thank you so much for everything.
My first job was in sports, and I was so thrilled just to be working in this business. I simply love covering this area. It has been my home for more than 40 years, and now it's wonderful that I can raise my family here as well. I'm Scott Dennis, and I'm here for you.
Watch Good Morning Suncoast on ABC7, weekdays starting at 5.
And our guests join us right now for final thoughts. I'm going to ask you 2 similar but different questions. And Jacob, I'm going to start with you. Will Puerto Ricans relocating to the Suncoast have an impact on the midterm elections, yes or no?
The midterms, I sort of doubt it's going to be any sort of meaningful effect. What's going to matter is if people come here, spend a number of years in the area, and become involved in local politics. Midterms aren't really the time when that's going to happen. Maybe by 2020.
Well, that was my next question, Frank. By 2020, will the number of Puerto Ricans relocating both to Florida and to the Suncoast have an impact on our elections, our election landscape?
I think so. By 2020, I do think so. I think that there'll be time there to, again, residency, registration, mobilization, outreach activities. And right now, I'm barring, again, a dramatic change in course on the part of a president that can't stop showing contempt for this community, I do think that resource, that population will be tapped into, and they're going to have a pretty big impact come 2020.
Jacob, Republicans would say that the president is reaching out to that community, and that the values that he's expressing on whether it's a matter of families or whether it's abortion rights, some of those other types of family issues are more in line to the way that many Puerto Ricans think.
Well, of course, there's a good play that Republicans have always been able to make in terms of social conservatives. Many minority communities, very much the Hispanic community, has had a lot of social conservative foundation to it. The biggest issue, though, with this president is that he is allowing white nationalists to rebrand the Republican Party. That's not good for any type of minority outreach.
And unfortunately, that's where we have to leave it. Gentlemen, thank you very much. But before we go, we want to share with you what some of you had to say about last night's show on the House District 72 debate. We had Democratic candidate Margaret Good, Libertarian Allison Foxall, and Republican James Buchanan right here at the trapezoid to make their case on why they should be our next state representative. And I asked them a number of questions on the issues ranging from gun control to abortion, education, and climate change. Exchange. We went to Facebook to hear what some of you had to say about the debate, and Christine says Buchanan stands great on his own. Allison looked as if she had no clue what was going on, and the debate was between Good and Buchanan. But Kevin says Allison has my vote. She is someone who has my best interest at heart. Nick says Foxall, B-, Good, B+, Buchanan, D. I would have failed him, but his compelling full backstory really spoke to my needs as a citizen of the district. And Denise says it was an amazing debate. If you didn't get a chance to see it live, watch the replay. It just might change your mind. I know it did mine. Well, if you'd like to join the conversation about tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/mysuncoast.com.abc7. And FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TVs, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And for the latest on local breaking news, don't forget to download the updated version of our app. If your current app doesn't work, it's expired, just go to the App Store and re-download it by searching for WWSB or My Suncoast. We want to thank both our guests for being here tonight. Frank Alcock is a political science professor at New College, and Jacob Ogles is political editor of SRQ magazine. When we return, we'll have a final look at your first alert weather, plus what will be done with the classified memo written by a controversial member of Congress about the FBI.
In life after the military, it's our duty as veterans to have each other's back. I'm retired Colonel Greg Gatson, and it's my mission to help you get the benefits and services you've earned. If you need to file a VA claim, remember these important steps. Submit an online claim through ebenefits.va.gov. Work with an accredited Veterans Service Organization, or VSO. And if you need to attend a VA claim exam, please go. Visit this website to learn what to expect.
You know, fortunately, this was my first job out of college, so I was able to come back home and work in my hometown. I wore two hats. I was sports director and I was a news anchor. I did that for a few years and then decided to go full-time into news. Well, I love our team here at ABC7. We have a great mix, and it really is a great mix of personalities, of experience that meshes really well into a really strong team. I'm Scott Dennis, and I'm here for you.
I just need a second.
Is your weight holding you back and affecting your health?
Did you see this? Your cousin had a heart attack.
Really?
Excess weight or obesity can be serious, but you can do something about it. Visit yourweightmatters.org. Download the free toolkit to prepare you to speak with a healthcare provider. Your weight does matter. Accept the challenge and take charge today. Visit yourweightmatters.org.
Chris Domine is a husband, father, an athlete, even an Ironman. But 10 years ago, Chris's kidneys were failing.
The doctor said if you don't do dialysis, if you don't get a kidney transplant, you are going to die.
Then Chris received a second chance, made possible by an organ donor.
Your well-being changes from loss of hope to better times ahead.
Imagine what you could make possible. Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov.
Now your ABC7 First Alert weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan.
Well, once again, there's just pretty nice conditions out there in the waters after a couple of days of advisories. The seas are starting to calm a little bit, and our weather is too. As we move in through time, we're going to see clear skies tomorrow. You're going to love tomorrow's forecast. It's just gorgeous out there. We have some high, thin cirrus clouds streaming overhead associated with the subtropical jet stream now, and a cold front making its way through the plain states. Now, this front is not going to blow on through and cool us down all that much. It is bringing the big chill to the northern plain states, but the area of low pressure associated with it will stay so far north of our area. It won't get much whip through, and we won't see a lot of that cold Arctic air spill in our direction. Satellite and radar picture showing and depicting some low clouds off the Carolina coast and Florida. These are rotating around an area of high pressure, which continues to really dominate our weather. And currently we have 61 degrees. The dew point is at 55 degrees. So low temperatures tonight will be pretty close to seasonal averages, maybe just a couple degrees below average. But the front washes out. This is, again, Friday at 9 o'clock, and it looks like just some clouds around with the European forecast model. What we're going to see is that active jet stream with a little upper air disturbance move into the Gulf of Mexico, similar to what we saw last Sunday. And you'll see it play out, and then it meets with a cold front and storm system. But this one not as strong, it looks like, as it moves on through. We will see some showers, definitely, but it looks like the heaviest rain and some heavy snow as well into Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. And it looks like Sunday, basically after 4 o'clock or so and into the evening hours, a good chance for showers, mainly showers. We're not looking at anything too significant as far as that goes. Temperatures, 9 in Montreal, Ottawa 10, 28 in Boston, 30 currently in New York City and Pittsburgh, not too bad there, but cold. Bismarck at 11, 40 in Omaha, and 75 in Dallas, 67 degrees in Oklahoma City right now, and Atlanta at 53. Long-range forecast for temperatures anyway, showing a couple of outbreaks of this Arctic air spilling southward. One right into Minneapolis where the Super Bowl is being held. You'll see that cold air spill southward, that Arctic air with bitterly cold wind chills. And so we're going to continue to see this polar vortex, if you will, or a little lobe in this low pressure system in the trough of the low pressure dip down over the Great Lakes too. So winter is really going to hold on strong through the early part of February, right on in through the northeast United States. We'll get a couple of fronts with this too, definitely, but the fronts doesn't appear that it's going to be as cold as we saw a couple of weeks ago when we had the freeze and also the wind chill advisory, but we will stay fairly close to seasonal averages. So for boaters, winds will be out of the east to start the morning off. They'll switch around to the northwest at 5 to 10 knots. Seas will be running 2 feet with a light chop. So finally the winds and seas calming down for area anglers to get out there on the boat. And looks like water temperature now at 61 degrees. 70 for the area beaches for high tomorrow. We'll be in the mid-70s east of I-75 and into the low 70s right around, say, Sarasota and into Bradenton. Well, let's break down the 7-day forecast. So 73 for your high on Thursday, looking pretty good. Friday, we get up to 72. We'll see a little bit more increase in clouds with that front dying out as we get close to us. And then Saturday, the best of the 2 days over the weekend with sunshine and a high of 72. Sunday night, now that's when our best chances for showers will be. We'll get some showers out ahead of it too, say around 3, 4 o'clock. And then after that, the work week looking great. Back to 75 on Tuesday with lots of sunshine around. We'll be right back after this.
What to expect when you're expecting a teenager.
Today we're talking about how to wake up your teen, and this works literally every time.
Good kisses. Good kisses. You heard how loud
I heard. It wasn't you.
Yeah.
It was the...
Is that bacon?
You don't have to know it all to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
My life motto is keep moving. And as hard as it was when my husband passed away, I knew I had to keep doing what I love. Oops, coming. But I needed help with my insurance, and that's what the NAIC provides. They have resources to help you and your family make the best decision, and they'll help you to keep moving forward, just like me.
I'm Anne. I'm a scientist.
Recycling takes a team.
Why don't you let me and me help you out?
Everyone plays a part. Don't trash
I love taking stuff apart and building new things out of it.
what could be treasure.
Pal's my most advanced android. This is awesome. You haven't seen anything yet.
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
Soldiers in the Army National Guard live up to a set of time-honored principles.
I will always place the mission first.
They stand ready to respond to any crisis.
I will never accept defeat.
They serve in their communities as citizens and as soldiers.
I will never quit.
They train part-time to be ready to serve at all times.
I will never leave a fallen comrade.
Learn more at NationalGuard.com.
Here's something we bet you didn't know. Nearly half of all cancers can be prevented. That's right, half. Nearly 50%, mostly by making small everyday changes in your diet and controlling your weight, walking more, eating less, and eating foods that help you and your family to seriously reduce the risk of cancer. And of course, by not smoking. Visit the Cancer Prevention Together We Can website and get a free 30-day planner filled with tips, recipes, stats, and more about protecting your family. Go to prevent50.org.
Checking primetime headlines, and now President Trump is in a public squabble with his new hand-picked FBI director. The White House is debating whether or not to release a classified memo about the FBI written by a controversial member of Congress. ABC's Kevin Travers has more from the White House.
That controversial classified Republican memo is now here at the White House under review by lawyers. President Trump has just days to decide whether to release it, and the FBI is saying strongly, don't do it. A striking statement from the FBI Wednesday about that classified memo by Republicans on the House Intelligence Committee. The FBI says, we have grave concerns about material omissions of fact that fundamentally impact the memo's accuracy. Republican lawmakers voted earlier this week to make public this document that details what they say are abuses of government surveillance tied to the president's associates. President Trump signaling Tuesday night after his State of the Union that he's going to release it.
Let's release the memo. Oh, yeah, don't worry. 100%.
And his chief of staff, John Kelly, telling Fox News Radio,
it'll be released here pretty quick, I think, and the whole world can see it.
This is an incredible showdown between the White House and the FBI. FBI Director Christopher Wray and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein were at the White House Monday, pleading with John Kelly to stop the release of that memo before they have a chance to make sure it doesn't compromise any classified information. A source tells ABC News that Wray feels quite strongly that the memo as written is misleading. And while he didn't personally write today's FBI statement, it went out with his blessing. This is the first significant sign of independence by FBI Director Christopher Wray, who was put on the job by President Trump after he fired James Comey. Just last week, the White House said it has 100% confidence in Wray. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
A train carrying members of Congress, including House Speaker Paul Ryan, hit a truck today near Crozet, Virginia. One person is dead and 6 others were injured. Several legislators with medical training helped the injured and performed CPR. The train was taking members of the GOP to their legislative retreat in the western part of Virginia. The lone death was the driver of the truck. Personal cell phones could soon become persona non grata at the Pentagon. Defense Secretary James Mattis is considering banning cell phones, which would prevent U.S. military and civilian personnel from bringing their personal cell phones to the Pentagon. The officials say the proposal is under review and no final decision has been made. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us and have a good night.